So we fast forward, and you said you ended up in the Amazon. I want to come back to that, but the Maldives. Now, the Maldives, I have to be honest with you, is on a bucket list of mine with regards to one day I'm going to have one of those 5-star all-inclusive holidays in the Maldives and snorkel and scuba dive, and it's just like but I'm very conscious you've got this small chain of islands that have got 5-star, 4-star, very fancy hotels on them. Like, how do they go about managing the environmental impact of all of that tourism against like all of the coral, the sea life and everything else about it?
They hire me. So that's basically what my job was. So each resort, each island, like you said, will have its own hotel. So that's the unique thing about Maldives. You go to is one island, one resort, and they hire me. So I was a marine biologist, but also an environmental consultant. So they would ask me, we want to build this new restaurant here. How's it going to impact the land? How's it going to impact the coral? Is there any way we can relocate the coral, which is possible, to just sort of pick it up as a big job, carry it to another part? Or can we cut down this tree? The answer is always no, but still. And so, yeah, that was part of my job. And most resorts, actually, please let me rephrase that. A lot of the resorts do hire a marine biologist, and as part of the role, the entire ecosystem has to be looked after somehow. Sadly, not all of them do this, and the Maldives is in a very tricky position right now. It lost 90% of its coral in 2016 due to bleaching. It's a really terrible time. I was there, and the marine life's just not what it used to be in Maldives. They struggle due to lack of facilities. It's a developing country and no environmental awareness. It's a really struggling country, and I think resorts in the position that they are in really need to up their game. Some of them do, but it's not across the board. And most of them, I would say, need to up their game and just care a little bit more about the environment before it's too late.
It's interesting you mentioned 2016 and the bleaching of the corals. I interviewed some people who have got they basically they're sailing around the world. They've got a YouTube channel, and they were in the Mediterranean when I interviewed them, and they were talking about like the lack of sea life in the Mediterranean. When they were kids, they remember going fishing, and now there's no fish. And then I've got somebody else I follow on YouTube. So this isn't like hard data about somebody I know, but they were also talking about like the Pacific Isles and corals being bleached there and disappearing. And I wonder, is it coincidence that in the same like 5 to 6 year window that so much bleaching of coral has happened in so many different places in the world? Or is it global warming, or is it pollution, or is it just a natural cycle? What do you reckon?
Oh no, 2016 was because of the El Nino. So we get El Ninos and we get El Niñas. And 2016 El Nino was predicted, and it was quite accurately predicted that the damage was going to be really severe. Oh, I've got a little cockroach on my table. Okay. Okay. And the insects love to just stay inside your bedroom. So yeah, we knew it was coming, but what can you do? How can you protect the coral? And El Nino is a sort of natural phenomena that occurs regularly, but is definitely increasing in frequency and intensity due to humans, basically. And it's when the really, really warm waters from normally South America drive up into the Indian Ocean. And they increase the temperatures a tenfold. So I think we were sitting at about 34 degrees Celsius in our lagoon for about a month, if not more, and that's far too hot. Coral, I always like to say coral's a woman. It's so fussy. It doesn't like it too cold. It doesn't like it too hot. I always think coral is a female. And once the temperature is too high for too long, basically they can't survive and they die. And that's, the process of dying is coral bleaching, I guess. And there's normally very little comeback from that. And sadly, this El Nino was just so severe that the temperatures just stayed too high for too long, and it was game over. And I'll never forget that day I went out snorkeling and everything was just white. I vomited. I never get seasick. I've actually never gotten seasick. And I wasn't hungover or anything. I just felt so sick that the entire reef ecosystem that was in front of me, that had been my life for the past 6 years, was pure white. And it could only mean one thing, and that is death. And I guess the 2016 was a severe event, but you will also get pollution. Pollution will kill coral. There's a lot of places in Asia that still dynamite fish, which is crazy. Uncontrollable, unsustainable tourism, where people are standing on the corals, bad fishing practices, there's so many things. And I guess that's why it's all happened in the one space of time.
And can the coral rejuvenate? Can it like regrow itself, or can humans go and replant coral, or is it just game over and that's it, done?
No, it's a process. So coral's an animal. It's in the same family as jellyfish, and most people forget this. They think it's a rock or a stone.
Really?
Yeah, it's an animal, a living, breathing, reproducive organism, sorry. It's completely alive.
That's going in I journal every day. That's going in the thing. The biggest thing I've learned today is that jellyfish and coral are the same family. That's incredible.
Yes, completely. But I understand why people get confused. You know, what you're looking at when you look at hard coral, there's two different types, soft coral and hard coral. And when you're looking at hard coral, you're looking at the exoskeleton. So the organism itself is actually inside. And it's lots of different organisms together that make up coral. It's a complex animal in that regard. And normally it depends on the length of time. So coral can withstand bleaching, I would say about 3 or 4 weeks, maximum 6 weeks. And after that, it's game over. But let's just say the temperatures after 3 weeks came back down again, and normality resumed and everything was balanced once again. The coral would grow back and become alive once again, get strong. So it's a sort of, when it comes to coral bleaching, it's a time thing. And the temperatures of 2016 were just so hot, far too hot.
And so for the Maldives now, can they get their coral back? Is it game over for coral in the Maldives? What do you reckon the score is?
When I left, it wasn't in a good way. And I know there's probably a lot of marine biologists doing what I was doing. I had a huge coral garden, and I was taking fragments of coral that had been naturally broken, maybe by fish or turtles or waves. It's very fragile and they snap off. And as long as it's still alive and you've got live polyps, you can actually regrow it. And I was using this amazing technique of, so it's single line fishing line, basically, just plastic. And that's what they use in Maldives to fish, which is really sustainable. But unfortunately, once that line, that sort of monofilament, I guess, is thrown over, then it ends up in the ocean. So I try to collect it, and I tie my little pieces of coral on to this piece of wood, and they just hang in the ocean. They move with the current. They get really well fed because of the current. They need sunlight, and they grew into big, huge fragments that we eventually replanted. So this was pre-El Nino, but I guess for Maldives, they'll need to be working on things like that to bring it back, and it's going to take a really long time.
Yeah, it sounds like 10 to 15 years worth of really hard work to go and get it back, which is tough. Absolutely. It's tough for an island nation that like its income, its GDP is tourism.
Tourism and fishing.
Fishing. That's incredible.